Season 5, new ways to play, new weapons, Easter egg hunts. We're doing it all live over on my Twitch channel if you want to come hang out and join in on the discussion. I'd love to see you out there if you're willing, so if you want to hang out and chat, links in the description below. Yesterday was exciting because of the COD 2020 news and information that we got out of the mystery crates, but at the same time, while we wait for the next piece of that puzzle to reveal itself this Friday, life goes on in the COD world, and today we ended up seeing our first update to Modern Warfare post Season 5. This update today included some weapon tuning, and man, that's something we'll talk about because it's an interesting one to say the least. New playlists and interactable content, plus a few new items in the shop, which, if you ask me, are sort of the flagship, better looking items that we'll see this season. But anyways, today I want to run down everything with you that changed and let you know what you need to. So as we go along, let me know your thoughts down below. Do you like these changes? Dislike these changes? What do you think of the Bruin nerf and other weapon adjustments? Whatever it is, let me know your thoughts below. As well, if you are new to the channel, perhaps a part of that 58% of viewers not subscribed, do be sure to subscribe in order to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare, Warzone, and of course COD 2020 as we round into everything in the next few weeks. But anyways, let's get into it. Honestly, this week I want to start out with the weapon balancing and adjustments instead of the front-facing content as we normally do. I want to do this because weapon balance is something that we've been crying out for since Modern Warfare has become meta warfare and relatively fast with not much variance or deviation in the weapons that you'll go up against. But earlier today, Infinity Ward tweeted out a patch is rolling out now across all platforms that includes a few bug fixes and weapon tuning. Check out our blog for the full list of patch notes, to which if you go to that blog, you'll see a following of a handful of general fixes and then of course a few weapon adjustments. For the general fixes, we see a fix for the issues of explosive rounds on the Rydtech AMR being able to be equipped in the CDL modes, a fix for an error that players would receive when opening up the weapon armory, and a fix for the out-of-map exploit in the shooting range trial. That was an XP farm if you could get it working properly, even though the shooting range is basically already in my mind an XP farm to begin with, but you'd end up getting that 22,000 XP faster than every 30 seconds like normal, so that's something that of course needed to be fixed out there. But overall, for most, this may not affect you. They may be outliers, anomalies, you name it, but things you may never have encountered or maybe encountered once or twice. But we also saw 4 weapons get tuned with this update today. That being the FAL, the Holger 26, the Bruin MK9, and the M91. Let's start with the Holger and the M91 first because the other two will maybe surprise you, so let's kind of ease into that. The M91 saw an increase in the near damage output, and according to the game files, that's an increase from 31 DPS to 32. It also increased the ADS speed, again from the game files, apparently 450 milliseconds to 420 milliseconds, a 7% buff here to that, giving it a little bit more speed and agility. So overall, it was a slight buff to the weapon to make it maybe a little bit more viable. It's still one of the bulkiest weapons in the game, so it may not be your first choice of weapon, especially when there are other things like the Bruin and the PKM still existing, but it gives you at least a little bit more of a fighting chance if you do have an M91. The Holger 26 saw an increase to the damage range overall, in which in the game files, that's indicated from a change from 67 meters to now 71 meters, a 6% buff to that, and an increase to the ADS speed from 390 milliseconds to 360, an 8% buff here again. So another slight weapon buff to where this one may be a little bit more viable in competitive nature against other LMGs, but again, may not be your first choice. But the two standout weapons, the ones that everybody wants to know the fate about, the meta of Season 4 and 5, the Bruin and the FAL, well, the Bruin actually did get a nerf here at this. The only thing adjusted was that of the damage range and giving it a reduction. Now, how much that actually affects the overall viability of the weapon, that's something that time will tell here, and at first glance, it still is a beast of a weapon, but the max damage range, the closest range that you'll have, where you have the highest DPS, that was reduced from 42 to 27 meters, a significant 37% reduction, and the furthest damage range was also dropped from 66 meters to 56, another significant drop, but this time only by 15%. Now, this doesn't mean it's a weapon killing nerf, and like we said, if you jump into a game, you may still be beamed and absolutely gunned by a Bruin, but it is one that technically does knock it down by a slight notch, even though it may not be a large gap between where it was before and where it is now. One of the problems of the weapon, though, was like the Growl, the damage potential at range was so incredibly high, so they did have to bring it down a little bit. Whether or not it, again, changes the entire weapon, that's for time to tell, and right now, immediately, doesn't really look like like it still knocked it out of the meta. Same thing goes for the FAL, and the FAL is an interesting one here because it increased the headshot damage, which means you can now 2-hit at range so long as you hit 1 headshot, but also it reduced the near damage, meaning that the highest damage output was actually decreased, and with the limbs and lower torsos taking hits, it's always a 3-shot as well. So that headshot adjustment hasn't really been cataloged in the game files just yet, it seems, but the near damage, which is again that maximum damage per shot, that was changed from 65 DPS to 49 DPS, meaning you can absolutely still 2-shot with that multiplier, but you need to hit the headshot. So this one's kind of a weird, in some scenarios, buff, but in other scenarios, a nerf. So again, we'll have to see how this one plays out, but again, one that probably doesn't knock it out of the meta, but just slightly alters it with the engagements you may take. But those were the technical changes here that we saw with today's update. As of the playlist changes and the shop stuff, let's move over to that. Let's start out with the playlist items here, because what we saw up on deck was a shift, of course, in our weekly offerings for multiplayer and Warzone. On the MP side of things, we ended up seeing a slight adjustment here with this, in which on offer this week we have Ground War, Gunfight 3v3, Bare Bones, Hardcore, TDM, and Kill Confirmed, and Weekend Warfare continues on. Now, Ground War is, of course, one that we see all the time. That's a stable constant there outside of whenever there's the limited time mode for it. Gunfight 3v3 is your regular gunfight, just with another player on each squad. Bare Bones is an interesting one here, because this is one that I was kind of curious to see how they'd work this out, what they would take out of the equation, or how they'd really work it with Modern Warfare, because when you look at things like Bare Bones in Black Ops 4 or Black Ops 3, that stuff makes a little bit more sense because you get rid of those specialist abilities and lethals. But for Bare Bones in Modern Warfare, we end up seeing this game mode as a mosh pit of different modes with no kill streaks, field upgrades, or perks. So while that's awesome that you don't have to deal with things like Ghost, you also don't have to deal with things like UAVs. So some of the stuff that to me is pretty annoying about MP and just the regular fundamentals of how some things are categorized, whether that be field upgrades or perks, that stuff's kind of counterbalanced by the fact there's also no streaks. But it's just simply straight up go in, play the game modes how it is, not reliant on any sort of equipment, abilities, or anything like that. So that's something you can jump into in the next week here. And of course, I actually want to jump in and try it out for myself, see if I like it, dislike it, whatever it may be. Then we round out the next playlist here with Hardcore, TDM, and Kill Confirmed in one mosh pit here with it. It's just hardcore matches of those two game modes. Nothing really outside of the ordinary, pretty self-explanatory. And then Weekend Warfare continues on here, which I think is always funny when they continue it on through another week, because, I mean, we're going into the middle of the week, so it's not necessarily the weekend. But anyways, moving over to the Warzone side of things, we also didn't see a whole lot changed here within Warzone as well. We still have your Battle Royale with still buyback or stimulus solos, duos, trios, and quads. Mini Royale sticks around here for another week, and then Plunder Quads is available. But also, again, we have that multiplayer free access still going on as well. At least that hasn't been taken out of the equation just yet. But that's your playlist here on offer for this week in both MP and in Warzone. Over on the shop side of things, though, this is where we see a little bit of some new introductions as well. Honestly, I think two really good bundles. I ended up buying both of those. That I don't think has happened at any point within Modern Warfare so far, where I'm like, I need to get both of these featured bundles. That never happens, but we got two cool ones up on deck, in which we have the Executive Armorer and the Poison Dart bundles introduced here at this. You may have also gotten one in your blueprints, your operator section, but again, because those are really dependent on the individual case-by-case basis, I can't really say definitively, hey, this was updated as of today. These ones, though, the featured, are across the board for everybody. For the Executive Armorer, for 2,400 COD points, you can end up getting the Armorer Mace skin, the Motherlode Grau 5.56 variant, the Royal Coffer Fennec variant, the Golden Hue Melee weapon, which is a hatchet variation of the combat knife, the Garger Grill Charm, the Ironworks sticker, and the Stack 'em Up Mace Quip. Now, honestly, the Mace skin is really cool looking to begin with. I know that was one of the standout things from the Season 5 trailer. Both the Grau 5.56 and the Fennec variant actually have golden tracer rounds as well, which honestly look really cool. I know that I've picked it up a couple of times within Warzone, and I was like, that's actually awesome. But the other interesting part is that the Grau ends up coming with the new Squall barrel, the 11.8-inch barrel that was introduced with the Season 5 update. So if you haven't quite unlocked that just yet, you can end up getting it and playing around with it without having to do that challenge that goes along with it. These come along with new iron sights as well. So definitely something you may be interested in it if you want to check it out. Of course, it is there. Then jumping over to the Poison Dart bundle for 1,400 COD points, you end up getting the Galapagos M13 variant and the Anole MP5 variant variant, along with the snapped up calling card and the Wicked Tongue emblem. Truth be told, while I swap out that optic, that stock, as well as the perk on the M13, the stuff that actually still carries over in terms of what looks good, that barrel you don't lose any camo on, that magazine camo you don't lose anything on, those are actually two really important pieces to my M13 loadout. So this one was definitely one that I was interested in, and the MP5 is the same way as well. Even though I remove a decent chunk of those attachments, in terms of that muzzle brake, maybe the tack laser, that optic I don't really care about, and of course then the rubberized grip tape, the rest of it you don't really lose out on a whole lot of what the displayed camo will look like when you reload or inspect your weapon, so both these look really good as well. But those are the shop changes, and that just about rounds out everything that we saw here with today's update for Modern Warfare. Again, some weapon adjustments which may or may not be up to standard of where you were hoping to see these adjustments go in terms of nerfing weapons, buffing others, but it is the stuff we ended up getting. The playlists, again, are stuff that we see weekly on rotation. I really wasn't expecting a whole ton here out of this week's update in terms of playlists, simply because, again, yesterday was COD 2020. Next week is that bi-weekly thing where we see more substantial updates almost on that bi-weekly basis here, it seems, in the past with previous patterns in Modern Warfare's life cycle so far. So this week was kind of just there and introducing some stuff to tide us over, it looked like. But that's where we're at here with that and everything that changed. So I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. What was your favorite part here out of this weekly update? What was the least favorite part, perhaps? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare, Warzone, and COD 2020 on a daily basis. But if you guys also want to follow over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected from outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be. That link is down there in the description below. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.